Hello, and thanks for joining us here at XM.com for this special report. I'm Christina Marucos, and joining me today is Senior Investment Analyst Marios Hadjikyriacos. We'll be having a look at central banks, how they're changing their stance lately, and how this environment might affect especially the yen. So, Marios, we're seeing central banks around the world slowly stepping back from the emergency policies they enacted last year in the middle of the crisis. What is behind that? And is this a global phenomenon?
Hello, Christina. Yes, it's more or less a global phenomenon. So we're seeing an environment where the global economy was in free fall last year, but we did a lot of monetary stimulus, we did a lot of government spending, we had the vaccines being invented relatively quickly, and now we're in the middle of a relatively powerful recovery. So we're seeing a lot of countries doing much better, and I think the speed of the recovery has caught everyone by surprise, governments and central banks included. Even inflation is making a comeback in several nations, even though that's mostly a supply chain issue, not really a demand side phenomenon. Now, why are we saying all of this? Because a few central banks have started to acknowledge this dramatic improvement. It's not everyone. So far, it's the Bank of England, the Bank of Canada, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, and maybe the Fed in a few months. All of these players have started to signal that our economies are doing better. Perhaps slowly we'll start scaling back our QE programs, and ultimately we might raise interest rates. Now, I want to be clear, this is still baby steps. We're still in the very early stages of this process, but this is how it naturally begins.
And so what are the market implications of all this?
Well, that's the million-dollar question in a sense, or the 100 million yen question. So yes, the globe is doing better. Yes, many central banks are starting to take a step back and talk about higher interest rates. But the exception to this trend is Japan. So Japan did an excellent job of handling the pandemic. Infections and deaths were far lower than most Western countries, but it has lagged behind in the vaccination race. So this implies that Japan is going to be the last one out of this crisis, and reflecting all of this, the underlying Japanese economy is not doing that great. It contracted in the first quarter, it's still in deflation, which of course is a chronic problem in Japan, but the bottom line is the Bank of Japan will not be joining this club of more hawkish central banks anytime soon. It's almost unthinkable that they would ever raise interest rates, and it's also highly unlikely that they scale back their QE program. Now, what does that mean? The yen runs on interest rate differentials. If foreign interest rates are rising, so in England, in America, in New Zealand, and so on, but Japanese interest rates are stuck at the bottom, that makes the yen less attractive from an interest rate differential perspective, and that really matters for the yen in particular. So I believe this is a really challenging environment for the yen. It's already an underperformer this year, but I think we're very likely to see it lose even more ground over the coming months and years as foreign central banks start to move towards higher rates, but the Bank of Japan lags behind. Now, the final part is, what could change all of this, right? What could make this view turn out wrong? The only thing I can really come up with is, some massive shock to the global economy, something, a new virus strain that is highly resistant to the vaccines, or something else that causes panic in the markets maybe, that could slow down the pace at which foreign central banks plan to raise rates, and that could give the yen some life back. But even in that scenario, I think it's going to be a short-term phenomenon. Even if we get that episode of panic, I doubt it lasts very long, and I think that ultimately the trend is towards a lower yen.
Marios, thank you for joining me today. This was a special report. Thanks for watching at XM.com.